So you have to be aware, you have to kind of accept and acknowledge that the environment is part of this in your own intention behavior or a gap that might or not. And then planning ahead because you recognize the environment is a factor.
Hi, welcome to the Judy Terrell Show, where I explore topics intended to optimize every body 50, 60, 70, and above.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to my episode number 2 in my series on intention behavior gap and how that is getting in the way of you actually achieving your weight loss, fitness, health goals. Welcome, everybody. I am Judy Terrell. I am a nationally board certified health coach. I am in a PhD program for lifestyle medicine, and my realm of interest is what is the intention behavior gap in the weight loss field realm, and what is stopping people from actually achieving that weight loss. All right. So this is a series on identifying the factors between the intention behavior gap. And if you didn't join me on episode number 1, let me clarify for you right now what that is. Intention behavior gap is we have the intention to lose weight. We are motivated to do it. We have the goal, and we have knowledge, okay? We have a plan, whatever. And then on the other side, there's the execution of the behaviors, following the eating plan, following the exercise plan at 5 o'clock instead of driving home, going to the gym, instead of scrolling through social media until 1:30 in the morning, getting in bed and going to bed at 10:30. The behaviors that are going to get you the goals of your intention. So intention, behavior, and then there's the gap, okay? So what that means is that like what most people say to me is, Judy, I know what to do. I have the intention and you've given me the plan or somebody else has, or I got the information. And yet I watch myself not do it, do other behaviors. What is up with that? Like that gap between those two, that is what this series is about. It's what my PhD dissertation and interests are about. And it's what I want to help you with because there's a lot of factors that go into that gap, okay? It's not just one thing, fix it, and then boom, the intention behavior gap is closed. There's a lot of factors in between those two things, and this series is identifying 6 of them. I already did the first one, which is like very prevalent. Now this is number 2, and number 2 is social support, okay? So I have a lot of clients that will come, and I've actually designed the programs for them because I have certifications and credentialing to write up exercise programs, write up eating plans and coaching, and health coaching for designing steps for people to take to actually, do the behaviors that are going to meet their intentions. And what my clients usually say to me again is like, I know you've given me what to do, and yet I'm watching myself not do it. And they're like, but I know what to do. Like what this is, I know I've got to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I know it's my fault. It goes on in my brain, and why I'm illustrating this and saying these things to you for your observation is because that's what I hear from clients. And what I'm going to say in this episode is that is not one of the factors in the middle here that is going to block you, even though you've got the intention in your brain. It doesn't just come from your own internal environment. The motivation and the skill sets and the help that you need to close the gap of the intention and the behavior. One of the things that's in this big, a lot of all the factors that are there is social support and social, the exterior environment and how that is influencing your intention and then the behavior you choose to do. All right. A lot of times I find that when I'm looking at a client one-on-one, when I'm working with them, like they're discrediting that. They're thinking that, well, if my motivation was right, if I could just get my own head in the right spot, I will not be affected by those things. And therein lies the problem, okay? because it's 50-50, I tell people. Like 50% of your intention and then doing the behavior that you're trying to do to get the goals of that intention and the payoff, the feel good things, the weight loss, the increased fitness, the, feeling more energetic in your day, the decrease of A1C number, all these, external, the goals that the intentions are meant to, achieve, and then the feelings of goodness that go with that. Those are all, 50% of that is going to come from your own internal brain, your motivation and your self-talk and all the things, getting the right program and all that. But if you're thinking, I think a lot of clients think that that is 100%, and then they are blindsided by the external factors that come into play and then throw them off. And they don't have plans in place and they don't see it coming, or they keep repetitively falling into it without having a plan, and then they blame their internal, the 50% of their own self, talk and their motivation for the failure. And so episode number 2 here, the second factor that's a big one in the behavioral intention behavior gap, is you've got to increase your belief and your knowledge that the external factors are as affecting to whether or not you're following your behaviors or not, to your internal drive, motivation, and all that. Because if you don't see that and you don't believe that, you're going to get blindsided by it over and over again. And that is probably happening to you, because it happens to all of us on, some percentage of the time. When you have tried all the programs and done all the right things, and yet you still can't lose the weight that you're trying to lose, and you're a male or female over 50, now is the time for you to look into my program, Your Second 50.life. It includes online video support. You can download video and PDFs for eating plan and exercise plan appropriate for the over 50. It includes group support on a monthly basis, and perhaps even more importantly, it includes weekly individualized coaching specific to you. Having the generalized plan is a good thing. I have helped literally thousands of people to lose weight over the 43 years I've been in practice, and I'd like to help you too. So if you are seeing that you are falling between your intention and behaviors, like the first thing is you've got to open up your mind and say, okay, 50% of this is not my fault, not coming from me from the inside, it's external factors, and then identify them, the ones that are happening cyclically over and over again, and then put in plans in place for how to get out of your own way, how to minimize them because you've thought ahead about them so that they don't derail you and you fall into behavior you don't want to do, okay? So for instance, one of the ways this might happen is it's 5 o'clock, you're getting home from work on a Friday. Your significant other says, you know what, it's been a rough day, and I know that we had planned to grill and, put the salad together, but why don't we just order out in and let's get pizza and wings? Now, your intention was to come home and have that salad, and you were in your head and you got yourself, it would be great to just order out, but you kind of talked yourself out of it. And then you walked in your house and the environmental influences are now having 50% of their effect on the intended behavior. And boom, you're like, you know what? You're right. Let's just do that. You want to blame yourself for that. And you have somewhat, there's 50% of that was your internal. But what if you could have thought, known ahead of that, planned for that to have happened, and then had something in place for it, so that your behavior is not that far off the one that goes with the intention. That gap was narrower, all right? So one of the ways you could have done that is expecting that, and had stopped and gotten a Panera salads. So now no one has to cook. No one has to take the time to put that together, even though you had the ingredients at home. You anticipated your own self being very vulnerable to falling into the influence of your, significant other. And now you are like, yeah, honey, I get it. And I was thinking about that myself. And so I got these salads. These are going to be yummy. They taste really good. And I have them right here. So let's just eat these. I was feeling that probably would be the same for me. And I took the initiative here. Now that would be you recognizing that your spouse's or your significant other's influence was going to possibly derail you, and then being ahead of it. Okay. Another way this might happen is, your friends your friends set, you meet, and one of the things you do to spend time together is go out to dinner or go out to lunch or whatever. Now, you've got two ways, you've identified that this is an environment now. I'm with my friends. They're going to order things in this restaurant menu that are not on I'm trying to avoid, but I really want them. The environment is going to be very stimulating. I'm going to crash and burn here. So one of the things you might be able to do in that circumstance, once you've recognized that you're susceptible in that environment, eating out with friends at particular restaurants. So one of the things you might do is suggest a restaurant where you've looked ahead and there's foods on there that you are looking forward to eating, but are not going to be like hyper stimulating to your brain. Like an Italian place might be hyper stimulating to you, but if you were to choose a Mediterranean or a steakhouse, you're going to still be able to enjoy food, enjoy the company and the pleasure of your friend set, but now you've directed yourself away from a certain ethnic restaurant where you are more susceptible to falling off your intention because the choice of foods there is just more stimulating in that environment of that ethnic restaurant than in a different ethnic restaurant. And then before you guys even meet there, you say, hey, why don't we go to this restaurant? It's a new one, and I've been meaning to try it. Now you are you're forewarned and forearmed before you walk into a environmental setting where, even though you have the best of intentions, you're more susceptible to falling off that your planned behavior. All right. So those are two examples of what are ways to work around the environmental influences where you're still getting the pleasures from falling off the plan, but you're somewhat controlling them. And the only way you can come up with these kind of strategies is by recognizing that 50% of the time, the intention behavior gap is environmental, either by people or the environment of what you're stimulated by. Okay, what you're walking into and that hyper stimulus versus a place where you walk into and it might not be quite as stimulating, but still pleasurable. Okay. So again, the clarification here that, again, for this episode number 2, this is the top 2 factors that come into this intention behavior gap is the environment, including people and, the stimulus response, and now I just did a food one, but I'm going to do another one. It might be that you have intended to go for a walk when you get home from work with your partner, and that you get home and they're like, I don't want to do it, right? I'm tired. I don't feel like doing it. Now, you could just go out and do it alone, right? But that might be, you just don't have the wheelhouse, the internal motivation is not high enough. You were planning to do it with your significant other, and now they backed out, or a friend, for instance. So that's another example how, the environment shifted on you. And so having a plan in place for that, it might have been that you say, okay, my person's backing out on me. So instead of that now, then I'm going to do like a 10-minute calisthenics workout. And I have bookmarked on YouTube, or I have a subscription that I can stream in my house. And now I've got that right as a backup. So it might not be the same as going out for the walk, but I'm going to kind of mark the exercise time. So I'm keeping that habit pattern in. And now that's a way of adapting to an environment that shifted on you. And rather than saying, oh, I know I should go out for the walk myself, but, blaming now your own internal environment and motivation, and missing that it's the environment outside of you that is now causing the potential gap in the intention behavior, and having another behavior, being ready for that ahead of time, the environmental influence. So you have to be aware, you have to kind of accept and acknowledge that the environment is part of this in your own intention behavior, or a gap that might or not, and then planning ahead because you recognize the environment is a factor. Okay, so that's the thing. I think a lot of my clients, they're over blaming themselves. They say, I have 100% control over my own behavior, and that's what's making them fall off the behaviors they need to do, because really the more realistic view is I have 50% over my actual behavior from my internal environment of motivation and intention and all that, but there's 50% is an external, and I have to recognize that and build some things in to buffer that somewhat, right? But if you're someone who's standing stoic and I know it's all about me and it's my internal motivation, that's where you're going to fail. You're going to have that intention behavior gap is going to be a bigger gap than it needs to be, and it's going to be a gap more often than getting yourself to actually do a behavior. You have to recognize the environment is a significant influencer and be humbled by that, and then have plans in place to adapt for that. Okay? All right. This is episode number 2 in what are the factors that go into the intention behavior gap when it comes to weight loss and fitness and health behaviors, and what can you do about it? All right. I hope that you took value from this. If you did, please hit like, please hit subscribe, and please comment below, how this has happened to you. Have you done something similar to what I just suggested? What has been the end result of that? We love stories. Again, this is the environment where you're influencing the environment. Someone else reads your comment and it helps them. Again, that's an example of how the environment helps to either keep you on your behaviors you're after or not. Okay. And I have all sorts of other resources. Please go to my website, go to my yoursecond50.life. All the links are below, and check out how I might be of help to you outside of just this video. And in the meantime, though, this is episode number 2. There's 4 more, and I'll see you on the next one.
And if you'd like to have access to some of my additional resources, I can be found at Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on my website, www.judyterrell.com.